Hello lunatics. Welcome to another short tutorial on modding Stalker. So a friend of mine asked how if there's a quick and dirty solution to quickly make camo masks so that it can change the colors or camouflage or whatever parts of a model. So as an example here, I have one of the Merc models. I think it's the military Merc. Yeah, there you go. And here, for example, let's say we would like to recolor, the vest and the pants. So essentially, these two bits here. And this is what we're going to look at now. Now, there's many different ways to do it, and I would do these type of things normally in Substance Painter. But here is the tutorial to do everything in Photoshop and to do with different tools in Photoshop. And there's probably better ways or easier ways, but the idea here is to do something quick and dirty that looks good enough normally in game, and we'll see how all of that pans out. So I've already loaded here the cargo pants blue in Photoshop and also the according bump. Now this bump here, as an example, was stored somewhere else because it's used by all the cargo pants ones. So you have here the green ones and the blue ones and the black ones, and they're in different folders. So sometimes you have to go look for the files. Usually it helps to open the THM files because there you can see where the bump files path leads you to, and you can find the files. Then two things that I have installed in Photoshop that we need here is on one hand side the NVIDIA texture tool to be able to export this as DDS. There's also the Intel DDS exporter, you can use that one as well. And additionally, I've also installed the so-called X-normal filter, which is something we're going to use to basically create out of the normal map to create some cavity maps that we're going to use to bake some light and other effects into our camouflaged thing here. Additionally, I have loaded some camos into Photoshop. So for example, a desert flag turn that I made, a Swiss Tats 83, and a camo woodland. So there's different ways to create those. You can of course just download some from the internet. You can probably find some in other games like COD or others, but you can also make them yourselves. These are examples that I make myself that work pretty well, and we're gonna now show how we can use those on our nice cargo pants here. The first thing to do here is to first unlock the background because we're going to use this in different ways. What is also usually advisable is to make smart objects out of the layers so that when you do changes, they're non-destructive and you can go back later. So for that, you just have a right click here and then you can say convert to smart object. You don't always need it, but sometimes this is a good thing to do. Then, for example, if I duplicate this and I don't want this to be a smart object, I can also do a right click and can here say rasterize, and then it's again a normal layer. So because some things that we're going to do, we need a normal layer, and for some, we prefer to keep a smart layer. Okay, so let's start first with creating here on top of this a folder. I'm just going to call this folder camo, call it whatever I want, it's just as an example, and we're going to create a mask. Now this mask here works like this: whatever is white is basically shown and whatever is black will be hidden. So we're going to first add a new layer inside that folder, and this layer we're just going to fill this with some bright color, so it doesn't really matter what it is, but let's use red, for example, like that. So we have a full red layer. As you can see here, the camo is of course now white, so it means everything of this layer is going to be shown. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove here the opacity to maybe something like this, so we see what we have under it. And you can choose any color, it doesn't have to be red. I chose red because red usually is not on textures. It's kind of a rare color, and then this works fine. If you're working on some duty textures, then maybe you want to pick something else than red because there will be red there. All right, selecting the camo mask here, we can basically now zoom into, for example, an area. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut out all these things that we don't want to be camouflaged. So for this, we can just go to a brush. We pick a hard brush. That usually works well. This is now too big, so we're going to make it a bit smaller. So that's fine. And now we're going to here have the option, to have black or white. So remember, if it's black, it's going to be cut out of the mask. So let's stay on black for now. And let's just going to paint over these. Oh, I need to make sure that the opacity here is 100%. And we're going to here just paint over these areas that we don't want to be part of the mask. Don't worry if you paint a bit too far. We can then simply correct this, for example, by just switching here to white and then painting again the white bits. So meaning that hiding again those parts that we don't want to be uncamouflaged. We can also do this for areas like that. For example, here we can just go and paint it like this. Again, you don't have to be super precise, but of course it helps to not go too far. So maybe here the outer seam, we don't want it. So again, we're gonna here make sure that we're gonna make this a tad smaller here, that we don't have the outer parts like this. And there's different ways that you can do this. I mean, here, for example, I just use a paintbrush, but you can also use, something like you can, for example, use these bits here to select automatically an area that has a bit more straight lines. Then it's also a bit simpler. So we can just go like this. And then you can say Shift F5 and fill, and then, for example, fill with the foreground color, which is black here. And then you just have done this like that. Usually, straight lines work really well on stuff like guns, etc., or like belt buckles or something which is pretty straight. Here I would rather use a brush, because then you have a bit of let's say a bit more control over how the areas work. So for example, here I would use rather a pen like this, and then make sure that we have all these bits here. And you can see I'm again going a bit too far into the areas that I don't want to be cut out, but this is then again something which I can just go pick a bit of a smaller pen, switch the colors, and then just here again correct my mistakes in the sense, right? And you would then repeat this for all the areas that you want outside of the camouflage. You've seen I continued a bit on the different masking here. As you can see, also you don't have to be super precise, because in the end there's many parts here that is not even going to be visible on the model itself, but some are. So of course you want to avoid, for example, having this metal ring here having a weird camouflage on it. So this one you maybe want to go a bit more precise, but other areas maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference, and it's okay if it's just if it's close enough. And again, you can always change this at a later stage. So my recommendation here also is to save these files to be able to work on them later. Then we have another larger area here. So here, for example, we're going to go with a bit of a larger brush here to be a bit quicker. For these areas, I think this is the knee pad area, so I don't even think it's visible actually on the model, because it's hidden behind the knee pads. But we're still gonna exclude them from the camo mask, just to be on the safe side of things. If you go back here to Blender, you can see this is the model we're talking about. So you can always also select the object, go to UV editing, and then let's here switch to color. If you select them all, you can see also which parts are where here on your texture map. So you can see, for example, that these areas here are probably knee pads areas, and that's also another one. So we can check which one these exactly are. For this, let's here quickly just look at that part. And now if you select everything here, you can see a bit better where things are coming from. You can also here just go and select, for example, individual pieces like that, and you can see where on the area these are. And my suspicion here is that see, it's these things here that actually are that. It's not even the knee pads. It's like the lower legs part. So this is literally nowhere to be seen in game. So that's really not an issue. But again, it's just to make the example. Okay, back to Photoshop. So we have now masked those bits, the most, let's say, obvious bits, and there's also, well, there's another one here at the bottom that we can of course mask as well. Again, it's probably not one that's actually visible anywhere, but let's quickly do it. You can also see that in the original texture there at the bottom, there's a part which seems kind of like copy pasted or like looks weird, and this is also because this is somewhere in the model at the very lower legs where it's not visible anywhere, and because of this they kind of just ignored it. So, and that's fine. I mean, you don't have to fix these mistakes because they're not visible anywhere. However, what we would like to have is all this nice dirt that we have here. That is something that I would like to put on top of my camouflage. So how to get the dirt here? For that, let's for now just hide our camouflage mask here, because we're going to add these things as a layer on top of everything, a bit like an effect, if you will. And for what we're going to do, we're just going to here select the duplication we've done of the base color. And there's different ways to get those. In this case here, I would say probably the easiest one is to try to get them with the color selection. So the color range here, and now we're going to pick something that, you know, has a bit of a specific color that is nowhere else. So maybe something a bit brownish, darker brownish maybe. So you can see the preview here. I've selected the fuzziness to be 24. Depending on the color, can be a bit more, can be a bit less. This is maybe not so bad. As you can see here, it selects most of them, not all, but is a good selection. Anyways, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, because we're gonna use this just as a kind of an overlay. So the next thing here to do would be, and I'm actually going to change here the selection because I'm not really happy with that. I think we should have something which is a bit more. That's a bit better here. So because I want the larger areas of the pants not selected, because otherwise we're just going to add too much stuff on top, and this is a bit better. So now what we're going to do is going to expand the selection here a little bit. So for this, we're just going to here go to expand and add maybe 3 pixels. So we have a bit of a larger areas now. You can see most of the dirt is now captured nicely. There's a bit here that is not. That's fine, unless you really want to make sure that you have everything, but this probably will be difficult because this starts to be quite tone in tone. What we can also do here is the selection. We can feather the selection a little bit, maybe just 1 pixel, so we have a bit rounder areas. Sometimes that's fine. Okay, next step is now with the selection here, and we are on the right layer. We add here the mask, and with the mask we have now basically masked out all of these things that we want. What that means now is that we're gonna here drop this thing on the top of everything, so that when we now have our red camouflage, in the sense, you can see this is the stuff that is being added. Now, of course, this is too strong, so here we can just play a bit with the opacity and maybe just go something like, I don't know, around 60, I don't know, maybe like this. This is okay. All right, now we're going to switch over to our bump file. And in here, you know, if you followed my other tutorial, you know how you create a bump file with the different channels, how you reorganize a default normal map into a Stalker X-ray normal map. The red channel is the glossiness. So this is where we talk about reflectivity of elements. As you can see here, the white stuff is what reflects light. So, or let's say, like a metallic reflection. So of course it's the belt buckles. Normally you could use this as well to work with the camo to give some additional hints and stuff. Here you can say this is a pretty poor gloss map, not because it's dark, that's okay, because it's clothing, so it's not going to reflect much, but simply because it's quite pixelated and it's not a very, very good quality. Here we have some information about these bits here that are reflected, so that's good, but again, we don't actually need it here. And in most cases, for like clothing, you're not going to have much information in this, because if you invert that, you see this is the roughness, and the roughness means that whatever is white is rough, whatever is dark is shiny. So really the only points of interest are here, so we can leave them as that, and the normal map will do, the bump map will do its work in the game, so we don't need to worry about this thing at all. But what we want to do now is we want to create a bit of a cavity map out of, you know, all the nice cavities and things that we have here in the bump map. But for this, we first must return our map back into the default normal map. Now, if you're doing this with new textures, you already have it, so that's great. If not, then you basically have to revert it. How that works is you have to copy the alpha into the red channel, and you go with the green channel, you put that into the alpha, you move the blue channel into the green channel, and then you move here this one back into blue, and we can delete the alpha channel. So this is just reverting the steps that we have done basically to create this as an X-ray map. So now we have a default normal map in a sense, and now we're going to use this X normal filter, and we're going to use this one to go from normals to cavity. So with this here, and you can just use the default settings that normally fine, hit continue. We now have created a cavity map out of the normal map. And this cavity map, we're going to use it. So we're just going to copy basically here everything, and we're going to put this on top of our of our cargo pants here. I'm just going to hit Control V. Let's zoom out a little bit. So, and now we're going to use this with a multiply blend, and this will basically now add, you can see here, that those shadows into our camouflage. And this is quite useful, let's say, because in the original one, of course, you have all these nice wrinkles and things, and if we would have here our camouflage to be at a 100% opacity, of course, lose all these wrinkles, and with this, we're bringing them back. That's essentially what we're doing. Now, it's not only that, it also adds more things, but basically this is one of the, let's say, the advantages of using such a cavity map on top. Okay, but now, we have this red thing, now this red pants. Well, we can actually, for fun, just export the red pants here to see what it looks like in the, what it looks like in here. Now for that, let's quickly go and grab our red pants here and dump them in here. And we'll just connect them quickly here to base color, so you can see we have now red pants. Also, you can see, of course, that this is not well, great unless you want to do some firefighters, and also you see how basically here we have all the dirt and stuff which is there, which is a bit too just grayish and uninteresting, but this is just because we have created a very extreme, let's say, color, which we wanted just to be able to work better on, to see what we're doing actually. But now we have our different camos, so we can just grab them and essentially drop them in here. So just inside our camo map here, I'm going to grab the next one, drag them, and the last one. And naturally they're way too big now because they're all 4K maps that I've done, but here this one is, I think, just a very smaller one, so we're going to have to just resize them accordingly. So let's do it like this, it's fine as well. And we don't have to go exactly on the size, it's just something which I think this looks roughly okay. And let's do the next one as well, because what you want in the end is to have a pattern in a realistic size. So you don't need to go all the way down. So this is maybe a little bit smaller. I think this is not so bad. It's also good to have a bit of room around, so you can move it around. If, for example, there's an area here that is losing some details because, let's say, the whole thing is brown like that. So maybe you want to move it so that the pattern is applying nicely to what you have under it. All right. Oh, and I somehow deleted my this one here. Okay, here we go. For that one, so go here. Let's see. We're going to need to go a bit smaller. This one works better if it's not too big. Maybe that's nice. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to here apply on our camo. We're going to here just reduce the opacity a little bit, something like 60 or more, and on the one that is shown under it, the blue one here, we're going to hit Control U and we're going to desaturate it so to make it gray, because we don't want any of the color of the original texture to be messing with the colors of the camouflage. You can also put the lightness up a little bit to make it a bit brighter. That depends if your camouflage that you put on top is very dark or if it's very light. Now here, let's keep it at 0 for now. And remember, we did this as a smart object, which means that we can, at any point in time, we can just double click here and change those values again. So it means that we can be a bit more flexible. So for example, here for the woodland one, this is actually fine. So here, we're going to go and export that quickly as PNG. And in here, you can see this is our PNG one. So we're just going to here add woodland at the end. Let's go back here. Let's look at this one here. Potentially color-wise, I think we're good as well. We can maybe see if this works a bit better if it's a bit darker. I think not too dark though, but a little bit darker maybe. I think we'll just leave it at 0. It's actually fine. Export. Let's have a look at the third one here. Yeah, again here I think the color tone is fine. We could potentially go a tad lighter, but also I think we just leave it at 0. This is really fine. Let's rename this like that, and let's export this one here. All right, so we now have created a couple of different camos. So now let's go into Blender again, and now let's go and replace them, for example, with the Flecktarn. And you can already see that this looks quite nice, it has some nice texture on it, and is, I think, already quite a good replacement. You can also have a look here at this one here we created. So if you're a fan of old school Swiss Army, then here you have also a nice camouflage. Or we can, for example, have a look at the woodland one, a bit more classic one here as well. Maybe here we could even go and reduce this a bit more, the pattern, if you feel like it's too big, to have a bit of a smaller pattern. And essentially the same thing you would do with the arm here, so it follows the same logic. Naturally, after that, you'll have all the normal steps that you do, that you have to export this as a DDS, etc. for the game, so that's of course clear. And also it depends on how you want to set up your mod, but if it's just a color replacement, then I would not change the name, I would keep it the same name, so it actually replaces the other one, or you create a new one, a new name, and then you have to create a new THMs and everything. I mean, you know the drill. But yes, in a nutshell, that's it. This is how you create quick and dirty camouflage. And I gotta say here, my favorite one is the Flecktarn. This looks really cool. Also because I added some texture into the thing itself. Because of this, it looks already a bit more natural even, and has some kind of this clothing style with some, some bits that are a bit used. But yeah, essentially that's it, I would say. And thanks a lot for watching. And as always, good hunting, and see you in the zone.